let's talk Vikings 24, Packers 10. So again, when we say bets, that's our listeners before the season, kind of put their money where their mouth is and say, we've got a take. We want you guys to. We're going to challenge the PFF NFL podcast on this because we think this thing's going to happen. And one of those things was the Kirk Cousins MVP. And in last week, he said, "I'm going to cash out. I'll pay $100 instead of $200 worth of coffee,
right? Because
I don't think this is going to happen." And I'm sitting there in the middle of this Packers game, being like, maybe it could still happen. Cousins was playing that well, and unfortunately, despite the win here for Minnesota, somber mood for the Vikings coming out of this game because Kirk Cousins, Achilles injury, he will be out for the season. He has been so durable since starting.
His first game, this will be the first game that he's missed to injury.
Yeah.
For a guy who's, 215 pounds, small.
Yes.
And small and has typically been behind a pretty bad offensive line.
Yes. He also, he plays tough, man. I think a lot of people have come around on Cousins as a quarterback over the last couple of years, slowly but surely. And then you have this season, Kevin O'Connell even said after the game, he's like, I'm just torn up because the guy's playing the best football of his career. He's in the middle of his best season.
Without Justin Jefferson for the last couple of weeks. He's
passed that test.
He's been playing better, without Justin Jefferson in the lineup. I don't think there's any cause or effect there. I think he's just stepped up and has been delivering the ball to Jordan Addison or KJ Osborne or TJ Hawkinson instead of Jefferson. And, has been playing spectacularly the last couple of weeks and was playing spectacularly in this game. And then dude's Achilles just pops.
Yeah, so the Vikings moved to 4-4. They win 24-10 against the Packers. There's a couple things to unpack in this game, but going back to the whole Cousins thing, playing the best football of his career. I thought last year, maybe wasn't his best overall football, but it was the most he's ever won, right? And he's part of the reason why the Vikings are 4-4 now, and they're technically only a game and a half behind the Lions right now prior to this game. They're about to make a run.
Yeah.
Right? Minnesota.
With their schedule as well.
Yes. Along with their schedule and with a wide open, 4 through 7 seeds in the NFC.
They had a playoff spot.
Yeah.
That was a realistic target for them, was a wild card spot this year.
So I think a lot of people feel for Kirk Cousins and what transpired there because he is balling out. Doing it in difficult circumstances. Even in this game, it's I almost felt like he's just waiting. He's waiting for plays to uncover. He doesn't care that pressure's coming. He's going to make the throw anyway. And he did a great job. Schematically, I thought, what they're doing with Jordan Addison and kind of evolving his all-around game. They're throwing screens to him, and he was putting Jair Alexander in a blender a couple times. He was outstanding, Addison.
Addison looks really good. He does.
There's a couple passes he should have come down with as well.
That's the thing. So that the only flaw in his game at the moment has been a little bit of what can be interpreted as lack of strength at the catch point, but might just be a few plays that, if you hit, A.J. Brown in the right way at the catch point, you're going to knock the ball out, right? It's just that when it happens to a guy who's 175 pounds, it's easy to go, well, I've seen 2 or 3 of those, therefore that's the size and strength showing up, right? Whereas it might actually just be he's had 2 or 3 plays where he's been, the hit has come at the wrong time. So there were 2 plays in this game where the ball was in his hands and a hit came and knocked it out, right? Now the first one, it was an illegal hit, and they get the penalty instead. And then the second one was that Cousins finds him in the end zone, fits it in between 3 different players. Addison catches it, and then the hit comes in and knocks it out. Might be a thing, right? Might be Addison is a little bit weak at the catch point, and that's something he's work on. Or it might simply be he's had 2 or 3 of those plays that were a bit unlucky.
The second one, it wasn't triple coverage, but because Cousins was kind of taking a hit, he couldn't put as much velocity on it. Addison got hit by 3 guys at the same time.
Yeah, but my point simply being, if A.J. Brown is Addison in that situation and the ball hits his hands the way it hit Addison's, you would expect A.J. Brown to score a touchdown and come up with the ball.
Yeah.
Whereas because it's Addison and he's 50 pounds lighter, the ball comes out. Well, not because. It's Addison. He's 50 pounds lighter than A.J. Brown, and the ball comes out, so you automatically assume the problem is a strength thing, whereas it might simply be the ball, like he hit the ball in the right way. And
What
the
if
ball
it's
popped out.
Addison versus Forbes? Then what do you do? The thing when you watch Addison play, and I think the thing you liked around draft time to put Addison as your top wide receiver, the subtleties that he has just as a route runner, not just getting open, but he is QB friendly in the way he runs his routes. You know how we all grew up playing Madden and everything, and you see the play diagram. It's like this guy's going to run an out, and the out always has like this exact 90 degree turn, right? But the reality is a lot of times the receiver has to work back. It's not really 90, it's 80 or 75, right? You actually have to work back a little bit. Not like a true comeback, but you have to be working back toward the quarterback on a lot of routes. Digs are the same thing, in cuts and everything. I feel like Addison is just really QB friendly with a lot of those things. It's kind of the opposite of Mahomes was questioning Marquez Valdez-Scantling yesterday on a pass, and Quentin Johnston on a pass with the Chargers, where you just don't have that feel for shortening the pass, attacking the ball properly. I feel like Addison does all of those things very well. And now you see him, beating press against Jerry Alexander, moving around to the slot and on the outside. And just really impressed with what Addison's done over these last couple weeks for the Vikings and showing that he could fill in for Justin Jefferson. That was when T. Higgins did that last year for Jamar Chase. You said, okay, that's a legit 1-2 punch there. And that's encouraging for the Vikings for when Justin Jefferson comes back, that Addison has that ability.
He's looked great. Yeah, he's looked fantastic the last couple of weeks. Remember last week he makes a bad play to start the game, costs Kirk Cousins an interception essentially, and then
Yes.
Cousins kept going back to him, and Addison showed why, because he's a great route runner. He's great after the catch. Literally the only question mark you have at this point is strength at the catch point, which may or may not be a thing. It might simply be he's been unfortunate with a couple of plays that have been knocked out, but that's it. Like everything else he's good at.
All right, let's talk a little bit from the Packers angle, and I want to circle back to what the Vikings do, like what the Cousins injury means. Without spending too much time on it, we at least have to touch on that. From a Green Bay perspective, their offense is just in shambles. They look young. There's mistakes from multiple people. Not necessarily on the same play. It goes back to that, like somebody screwing up every time. The longest gain that the Packers had was a busted RPO. Jordan Love pulls the ball. He's looking for a receiver to throw to, and everybody's blocking. And he ends up early in the game just throwing a heave to Jaden Reed, who catches it for 34 yards. The 34-yard busted RPO was the best play by the Packers offense yesterday. So having some problems there, right? It's either a drop or Love's missing a throw or there's miscommunications. The young offense just looks young.
Yeah, it is the same story, and I sound like a broken record because this has been my take for weeks now, but it's because it's not changing. They just keep making mistakes, and as you said, it's not the same people every time, but somebody is making a mistake on a regular basis, and they're not good enough to overcome that volume of mistakes. I mean, on this game, Wicks drops the ball at the 5-yard line, right? Could have probably a touchdown. Instead, it's an incomplete pass. I mean, Jaden Reed has the ball in his hands, and Josh Metellus rips it away and ends up being a turnover instead of being a completed catch. So, like, somebody is just making some form of error fairly regularly in this game. And for a quarterback like Jordan Love, I mean, even if he ends up becoming, I think, a very good quarterback, he's probably not going to be a particularly efficient quarterback. So you're always going to be working behind the 8 ball in terms of, like, I don't have that many plays to give away, right? If somebody else is making a mistake, I'm already making more than most people, right? I'm leaving a couple of plays on the table here. So if you're adding to that, and then you're adding to that, and then the offensive line is adding to that, now we just have way too many mistakes for this to be a functional, efficient offense. And that's literally been the story for this team all the way through the season. Is I don't think it's necessarily a terminal problem like going forward, but they need to clean those up. Like, they cannot survive playing or with the volume of errors that they have as a unit on the offensive side that they've had this season.
I wanted to highlight that interception by Josh Metellus. Great play. Fun design by Minnesota too. They crowd the line of scrimmage, double A gap look. they're all up against the line, and they drop back into an inverted Tampa 2 with Metellus running the seam, and he makes that great play on the interception.
And this is exactly what we talked about heading into the game, right? Which is you don't know what this defense is going to be doing.
Right.
They are showing you looks that don't make any sense. I mean, in particular with those three safeties that are lining up all over the place. And, that was a great play by him. Cameron Bynum's made some fantastic plays this season. Harrison Smith has made some great plays. Like, that trio is a problem for opposing offenses and opposing quarterbacks.
We were intrigued by that coming into the season, right? Minnesota's they lost guys like Eric Kendricks and some bigger name type of players, replacing them with guys they've invested in, with Cameron Bynum over the last couple of years that they've invested in, and Metellus, who they said, they're unheralded later round draft picks, and they're going to be our guys, and they're playing pretty well.
Like, Brian Flores, I think, is doing an amazing job with this group. And by the way, like, the personnel is still not great, and I think there's also room for it to get better. Like, rookie corner Mekhi Blackman, I'm still pretty convinced is one of their best three corners, and is not on the field yet.
He had a big
best
game
two,
yesterday,
to be honest.
Yep.
Like, and yet because they're playing with this system that has it's sort of like base personnel in a bunch of areas, but then very not in other areas. Like, they're using three safeties rather than three corners. So Mekhi Blackman's actually not getting on the field most of the time. But I'm not sure I can be convinced that he's a worse option than a Caleb Evans or even Byron Murphy at this point. He should probably be one of their two starting corners. If they make that switch at some point in the season, like, the defense could get even better.
All right, real quick on Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings. One Mike Florio suggested maybe a trade for a former baseball player.
Yeah.
Take a big swing before the trading deadline. That baseball player would be Kyler Murray, by the way, not me. Kyler Murray.
You would be not a good option for that.
Well, I've retired. I'm retired.
Oh, no, that's why.
Yes.
Got it.
But Kyler Murray is not, presumably. And so the suggestion from Mike, not like inside information, just, let's just throw this out there, that maybe, Kyler Murray is Minnesota. I mean, it's crazy, right? I mean, the guy that Jets fans wanted to trade for is Kirk Cousins because Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins tears his Achilles. We go from, should the Vikings be punting on the rest of their season because they're 0-3, trade Kirk Cousins. Now they're 4-4, looking to maybe do damage in the playoffs. They lose Cousins. Jaron Hall's the backup right now as a rookie late-round pick from BYU. Should Minnesota consider a trading deadline with just Jacoby Brissett? Like, should they be considering something here at the deadline just to stay competitive?
Yeah, like, there's going to be some fascinating conversations happening within that building now, today.
Yeah.
On exactly this. Like, what the hell do we do? Because, Kirk Cousins was probably going to leave at the end of the season anyway. Like, they for once had decided we're not extending his deal again. We're going to let him play out this final year of his contract, signaling presumably that they're going to move in a different direction. So consequently, he's not tied down, right? Like, his injury is probably signaling the end of his Vikings career, although because he's been injured and it's a severe one at his age, I actually think in a funny way it increases the chances he goes back to Minnesota because I think it probably hurts whatever contract he can get this offseason at his age, given an Achilles, etc. So he's not going to get like a monster, blow you out of the water deal from New England or San Francisco or the Jets or whoever. I actually think the chance of him going back to Minnesota this year have gone up with that injury. But it means he's out of the picture. They don't really have a viable backup. Like, Jaron Hall, the rookie, is the guy that came in once Cousins goes down. I don't think you want to be playing him for the rest of the year. Number one, I don't think he necessarily has a future there. Number two, I just doubt he's good enough for you to win games. I don't think
Jaron Hall's ready.
If you want to win games this year. So the question becomes, well, do we see a legitimate future quarterback available, i.e. Kyler Murray, right? Like, you have to be debating, is Kyler Murray the guy we want as quarterback for the next, 5 years?
I haven't even looked at the cap situation and the whole...
And that would be pretty rough.
I don't want to put too much credence to Mike Florio, dropping a Hail Mary on Twitter.